part you are congratulating them upon. Because in your statement you said, notwithstanding what happened. For me, my congratulatory message to them is that they succeeded in not being beaten. But I also want, because while the rest were beaten, at least the officers were not beaten. Other players were beaten, journalists were beaten, apart from the Electoral Commission officers. So I wanted to ask the chairman whether they were part of the conspiracy for beating, and that's the reason they survived. The second is to ask them whether they are happy with what happened in Kawempe North as the Independent Electoral Commission. And the final question is to ask whether it is true, as we have heard, that they have been made to record the statements as to why NRM lost in Kawempe North, and that we've had other people have been writing statements in their boardroom, I mean electoral officers, to explain why NRM lost in their districts, where they have been, where NRM has been losing elections. Those are my preliminary thoughts, which I thought they would clear. With your permission, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
You've been raising this issue for the last 4 years. It regards Section 14A of the Political Parties and Organizations Act regarding political party financing during elections. Mr. Chairman, the law says in the election year, money is distributed equally to political parties. What the EC has been doing is to give the NRM and now NUP the biggest chunk using numerical strength. And yet the law is very clear. I have raised it with my lord. In the 10th Parliament, I raised it. His lordship promised that they would behave in the last election. They didn't. I want to find out, my lord, whether this time round you are prepared to follow the letter and the spirit of the law. Now that we are in election year, and I want to see how it is reflected in the budget, and that was a specific amendment to the law that we made here, the political parties and organizations. We specifically made an amendment on political party funding in the election year. These other years, it's okay. The distribution is on the basis of numerical strength. Yes, I've been receiving.
Okay.
Yes, yes, I've been receiving. The party has been receiving.
In the spirit of transparency, how much have you been receiving?
No, I account. They have the records. And by the way, JEMA is the only party that accounts on time.
On time.
Okay, and they are there. They can confirm. These people of NRM, they take long to account, and these others. In JEMA, we account on time, and they know, and they are here. So, my lord, I want to find out whether this time round, and if you don't do so, I may be compelled to take you to court, because that's what the law says. So, this is election year. I hope that this time round you will behave as you have promised before. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The effect of what you are proposing is that out of the 45 billions, is it 45 billion? Out of the 45 billions, how many parties are in Parliament?
That is the problem. Don't demoralize it to JEMA. I'm talking about the law, and there is nothing we can do about it. Yes, so my lord, I am looking at you with a keen eye this time around. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Honorable Sijan, take it up from there.
If JEMA succeeds on that, I am crossing to JEMA. Honorable Chair.
Yeah. I think 179 is not too big for us as a committee to push, to ensure that the commission is well facilitated and they don't have any issues arising out of either lack of funding or underfunding. But that is for us as a committee to further scrutinize. Who is next there? Honorable Fox.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I will also start from that page 21, table 5, item 1. The Commission reports in respect of administrative units LC1, LC2, and Women Council Committee elections that their budget is 58.134 billion. The amount allocated ZIGAP 58.134. That is consistent with their narrative on page 26, item 11. And I would invite you to move to that page 26, item 11. Where they report the funds allocated are not sufficient to cover the Commission's budget for financial year 25-26 because a number of critical activities that remain underfunded or unfunded, including women councils and committees and administrative units elections, Uganda shillings 58.134. Then we move on to page 28, item 17. Page 28, item 17. The Commission reports as follows. The Commission has allocated Uganda shillings 93.874 billion for the conduct of special interest group elections. Secretary, are we there? Therein lies my confusion. The special interest elections includes women councils, local councils, youth, and special interest groups. So does this speak to your report that you have these same elections and unfunded to the tune of 58.134 billion? Can you reconcile those different positions? Number two, and this is in respect of your report at page 27, budgetary challenges. The very last sentence, item 14. The challenges you had with the use of WUBOS tablets for voter verification. You are very polite. You report that the battery life is low. At page 29, you go back to the same issue. Page 29, item D. Insufficient provision of funds for the election, especially local governments. Now, Honorable Chair, we are going for very important elections, presidential and parliamentary. We need biometric verification at that election. We are in the month of April, a couple of months away from the general elections in January. And the Electoral Commission is, I didn't want to use the word massaging, but I may be forced to use that same word, massaging a fundamental problem. They have been given equipment that they themselves even admit are obsolete. They admit they have low battery life. Even for purposes of registration, they had fundamental challenges with those sets of equipment. But they are not firmly rejecting the use of this equipment. They are not family asking for funds to buy equipment that will be helpful at the general elections. What guarantees do we have that after the elections we shall not be at the same place in a post-mortem discussing how we had failed general elections? My Lord, do you really foresee yourself working with this same obsolete equipment and delivering free and fair elections in 2026? Lastly, Honorable Chair, my Lord invited us to visit their home, their new home. But we all know that they are renting. They are squatters. So this wonderful squatter is inviting us to, to somebody else's home. They have since become nomadic. They migrated from Ginger Road to some other place in industrial area. The question I'm asking is, my Lord, when do you intend to stop being nomadic? When Honorable Stephen Tashobia was the chairperson of this committee, we took a position that every government entity must have a permanent home, and we must stop paying rent for government entities. He migrated to the Electoral Commission. I thought he had carried the same virtues. I want to ask him a direct question. What stops you from having a permanent home? Can you please tell us what we should do to help you have a permanent home? I beg to submit.
I want to give a word of compliment to my Lord the Chairman and the team for delivering the Kawempe by-elections. My Lord, during the two elections I participated in, the last one in 2021, at the Tally Center, the Tally Center was attacked by armed with AK-47 and the rest. And your election official who was there was the first time for him to hear a gunshot. So the moment the bullet started flowing in, he immediately dashed under the chairs and started crying literally like a P1 child. He had never had. And you can verify this, but he managed to recover and went on. So what happened in Kawempe, I would understand the challenges, but I'm glad that you stood your ground and declared the winner. My first question is, going to 2026 election, what is the minimum for free and fair elections that the Commission would like to deliver to Ugandans? The elements, the minimum elements of your free and fair elections for 2026. I have looked at the ministerial policy statement, and the first point I would like you to address us is on the targets you have set, which is to conduct civic awareness and voter education targeting about 8 million voters. You have registered 20 million, and your target is 8 million. It is also not a coincidence that actually the 8 million may be the ones going to turn up to vote. I think in the last election the figures was around that as well, maybe less. That speaks to the integrity of this register in relation to the voter turnout. The Commission has consistently reported low voter turnout, I think average about 65%. And yet when you go to some polling stations, as reported, the voter turnout is 100%. What explains this particular disparity from the point of view of the Electoral Commission? And do these voters actually exist? That consistently we are only having 65%, where are the 35%? The second issue is your target in your M&E framework, the number of polling stations that you are going to reorganize and align. You stated it as being 42,000. That is in your ministerial policy statement. But my lord, the chairman has presented, and I think the secretary as well, that you have confirmed 37,696. Going into an election year with this discrepancy, and for us, we understand how the difference of 5,000 polling station hidden somewhere within your documentation, 42 versus 37. Wouldn't it raise a serious matter amongst the candidates when your election results come out and there are contestation on some maybe none or existent polling stations amounting to this number of about 5,000. The other one is about the percentage of eligible voters captured in the National Voters Register with correct particulars. And you have set them varyingly in your documents at 85% and 96%. I find it difficult to accept that you want to do it at less than 100% as your target. Why would you leave even a small window, even if it's just 4% or 15% of eligible voters captured now, I can say, with incorrect particulars? Why would we have a margin of error for incorrect particulars captured in the National Voter Register, yet you have a series of activities planned in ensuring the integrity of the voters register? The other issue which we had carried from the budget framework paper is the demarcation, the update and demarcation. You call it an or demarcation of the administrative units. I remember I raised this concern, especially with cities, that in many of these cities, and I can cite the one of Lira City, the constituency, the two constituencies also have the same electoral area for the local government elections. In Lira City East, I think they have about 78 polling stations. So the the city councillor is going to campaign in the same geographical, same polling station as the member of parliament. And my lord, you had that time explained that this is coming from the law, which I think is correct. But then my question was whether the commission has now taken charge and will reorganize parliamentary constituencies also to speak to the spirit and letter of the law using the population quota. Because we have, and colleagues can testify, we have constituencies here with about 3,000 voters, I think 2,000 voters and 3,000. So how do we address that? And it's a big concern. I don't know whether the window has now closed completely for that demarcation, or it is something the commission is going to consider once again. Closely related is your indicator for proportion of elective positions filled within the provisions of the law. And the percentage also does not speak to 100%. So, barring any catastrophe or something like that, my question is, why would you go into a general elections and then set your target for some and not others, assuming even this funding is available for all the elective positions? On the plans to improve, you have listed a number of them. I am particularly interested in lobbying for timely amendments. What are the issues that you have proposed or you have? Because the stakeholders are here. What are those critical issues that you have proposed or you are about to propose for amendments in the electoral laws that needs to be captured? And then I have not seen anywhere how you intend to deal with the interferences by members of the security and militias, etc., in elections, We have seen at rallies, we have seen at consultations. I think the law now allows presidential aspirants to move and consult, and even on voting day, as we have seen happening in Kawempe. I move to the question raised by Honorable Basalira. My interest is just to know the breakdown of the 45 billion, how political parties are going to share. The details are not here. We just see a block figure of 45. So please share with us. We want to know each party, and if there is any areas owed to any political party, we need to have that. And yeah, thank you. On the issue of the budget estimates, there seem to be huge disparities between what is presented to us in the ministerial policy statement. I looked at page 35 from what the ministry presented to us. The figures are 340 billion, and the budget estimates are talking now to 594, and I suppose this ministerial policy statement was presented after the second budget call circular. I don't know, but I think that's it. So why would you prepare this ministerial policy statement that by now we should actually disregard it completely, and yet we have been preparing to interact with you on the basis of this document? All the figures have been adjusted. For example, on election management, you had proposed to use 101 billion, but now in the new document you have just supplied to us, it is 185. I think the same on education. I think you call it education something, which was 10 billion, but now we see 13, and we have just received this document. So I wanted to propose that before you ask us to provide the 179, there are a number of budget lines that may need to be reviewed critically. Maybe you will be able to realize some money available. And I've picked a few here. There is a budget line given for review of budget framework paper and ministerial policy statements outside the printing. And then a budget line, I think 0005 on staff appraisal, disciplinary and training, where money is actually proposed, but I don't know this kind of staff appraisal and disciplinary, what expenses beyond maybe the venue and some refreshments, and they're huge. 3.2 billion for a seminar. I think it's one seminar. In fact, somebody to attend the seminar for the ACPAU, and then after produce 2 reports. And when you look at that, maybe you can realize some savings out of that. So there are a lot of areas that are a bit questionable that you will need to respond to. The last question I would like to ask is on the fate of political parties. First, there are a number of political parties that applied, and I know they continue to apply to be registered. I don't know how many you have received, entities seeking to be registered as political parties. How many have you registered? How many have you rejected? And how many have you deregistered for non-compliance within the register? And if you have not yet given decisions on some, how much time do they have? For example, I know you have told us elections are sequence and they have deadlines. So how long do some of these parties have to know their fate, whether they will be able to be registered, and if they are not, what are their options to participate in the elections? You can combine that with a question that last time you promised to look through, whether you received complaints from the president, both in his capacity as a former candidate in the election, but also as a chairman of a political party, where he has severally accused electoral commission and other political of stealing votes that belong to him. And of recent, we have seen in Kawempe, I think the first time I saw him complain was when there was a by-election in Luero. And then later, the 2021 general elections, where he said about 1 million of his votes were stolen or were gifted to another candidate. And now the one in Kawempe, where he also claims that the results are contestable. So I wanted to know, and I saw after you appeared before us, in an interview you said you had constituted either a team to handle that matter. How far have you handled that matter? Do you intend to, when is he going to appear to give evidence, and which other stakeholders do you need so that we are able to come and also be there? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And members of this August committee, once again, I wish to express our pleasure for having been invited to appear for this important committee, which has stood with us and rendered us invaluable support in our work. As is our practice, Honorable Chair, we always come as a full team, but today 2 of our colleagues, 2 of the commissioners are not here. My deputy, Hajat Aisha Ruvega, and Commissioner Caroline Benemario, they are indisposed. They extend their apologies. They would have loved to be here. Honorable Chair and members, let me start by congratulating you, Honorable Chair and members, upon successfully celebrating the Eid Fitri, and wish you a happy Easter festivity season. As you may all be aware, the Electoral Commission is established under Article 60 and mandated under Article 61 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda to organize, conduct, and supervise regular, free, and fair elections and referenda. The Commission would like to thank members of the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee and Parliament in general for the invaluable support which has enabled the Commission execute its mandate. The Commission appreciates all the support rendered which has enabled it successfully conduct all previous elections as required by the law. In the same spirit, I would like to thank you for the support you accorded the Commission during the just concluded general update of the National Voters Register and compilation of registers for special interest groups. As stated in the roadmap, the Commission will be embarking on the display of the National Voters Register beginning on the 17th of April to 8th May this year, and counts on Parliament to support this activity as well. Honorable Chair and members, following your invitation and in line with sections 13, subsection 13, subsection 14 and 15, and further sections 14 and 15 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015, I take the honor of presenting the Ministerial Policy Statement of the Electoral Commission for the financial year 25-26. This statement, therefore, forms part of the first MPS in the implementation of the National Development Plan NDP4, which covers financial years 2025 to 26 to financial year 2029-30, as well as the third phase and final year of implementing the 2025-26 general elections roadmap. Honorable Chairperson, the central focus of this MPS is anchored on achieving NDP4 Objective 5 that aims at strengthening citizen participation in democratic processes. This is crucial for the delivery of regular, free, and fair elections. Critical to the forthcoming general elections is the nomination of presidential, general parliamentary, and local government councils candidates, which is scheduled for September to October 2025, and polling, which is scheduled between 12th January and 9th February 2026. This therefore makes the financial 25-26 significant and thus requires all activities to be executed in a timely manner and adequately funded. Consequently, the Electoral Commission has developed this MPS that suffices to meet the aspirations of government in line with the budget call circular pronouncements and the budget theme quote, full monetization of Uganda's economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation, and market access, end of quote. Therefore, this MPS is crucial in meeting the Electoral Commission's goal of promoting participatory democracy and good governance. This will not only ensure that regular, free, and fair elections are conducted, but that Ugandans and stakeholders effectively participate in the electoral processes. Honorable Chairperson, as I mentioned earlier, the financial 25-26 is the final phase of the 25-26 general elections roadmap, and the following critical activities have been earmarked as priority areas. 1. Nomination of candidates for presidential, general parliamentary, and local government councils elections. 2. Production of ballot papers, declaration of results forms, and other non-generic election materials. 3. Election for special interest groups, that is the youth, persons with disabilities, and older persons, committees, stroke councils from parish to national level, and work as delegates. 4. Acquisition of electronic results transmission and dissemination system, or ERTDS. 5. Packing, distribution, and retrieval of materials for polling. 6. Supervision and monitoring of candidates' campaigns, polling, and other electoral activities. 7. Production of the polling register for distribution to participating political parties or organizations. 8. Distribution of voter allocation slips. 9. Implementation of biometric voter verification system, which include training, configuration, deployment, troubleshooting, packing, distribution, and retrieval of biometric cards. 10. Handling of complaints and electoral petitions. 11. Conducting voter education, outreaches, and publicity for the electoral processes. 12. Verifying, ascertaining, and issuing gazette notices for electoral activities. 13. Supervising and monitoring of the general elections activities and recruitment, training, deployment, and remuneration of ad hoc election officials and sign language interpreters. Honorable Chair and members, it is important to note that some electoral activities are either underfunded or unfunded, which require additional funding of Uganda shillings 179.716 billion in the financial 25-26, and these include the following. 1. Elections of women councils, stroke committees from village to national level, and administrative units, that is LOC1 and LOC2, whose budget is combined budget is 58.134 billion shillings. Secondly, by elections arising out of the general elections, 14.3 billion. Continuous voter education, publicity and outreaches, mounting to 3.018 billion. Construction of headquarter offices for the Electoral Commission at Luvoa, Wakiso District, mounting to 62.060 billion. Construction of regional offices and storage space, 1.651 billion. Domestic areas, 5.998 billion. Staff wage enhancement and establishing offices in city divisions, which require 12.468 billion. Operations of non-wage, that is general administration, 6.887 billion. Facilitation of national consultative forum activities requiring 2.85 billion, and capital assets 3.349 billion. Honorable Chair and members, the Electoral Commission has made interventions that integrate into electoral processes cross-cutting issues in gender and equity, environment and HIV/AIDS, to ensure that its plans and budgets are comprehensive and inclusive. The Commission submitted its policy statement as part of the ministerial policy statement to the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. In compliance with the Gender and Equity Assessment Framework under the PFMA, the Equal Opportunities Commission awarded EC a score of 68% in the recent assessment compared to 64% in the previous financial year. Honorable Chairperson, the Electoral Commission was able to carry out activities planned for 2024-25 financial year under the roadmap. Challenges notwithstanding, the achievements include the following. A, we demarcated local government councils' electoral areas and published the list in every sub-county. We also reorganized 37,696 polling stations countrywide. The organization returns were processed and displayed at all polling stations countrywide. We also mapped the persons with disabilities to reorganized polling stations, villages countrywide, and extracted the PWD's register by village and polling station used during the general update of the National Voters Register. We also updated the National Voters Register and registers of special interest groups, that is the youth, PWDs, older persons, and UPDF, with a total of 20,040,322 registered voters processed as of 31st March 2025. We procured materials for the display of the National Voters Register. The display of the register at every polling stations, as earlier mentioned, honourable members, is scheduled between 17th April to 8th May 2025. I've also procured materials for elections of special interest groups. The nomination of candidates for village or cell elections is scheduled between 2nd to 10th June 2025 within this financial year. We also recruited, trained, deployed, and remunerated 2,191 sub-county and 10,716 parish election supervisors. We also conducted voter education outreaches and publicity of the electoral activities. We organized and conducted by-elections for Kisoro District Women Representative to Parliament and Kawempe North Constituency. Honorable Chair, I would respond to the issues raised by Honorable Segona at an appropriate time, as you indicated. We also engaged with various stakeholders and procured specialized ICT equipment, materials, and systems. Honorable Chairperson and members, a number of procurements are at contract signing level. The reason for the seemingly low fund absorption in the current financial year. These activities include procurement of generic election materials such as seals, ballot boxes, solar lamps, aprons, megaphones, guidelines, etc., procurement of ICT systems such as biometric voter verification system and kits, data center hardware and software, IT security systems, upgrade of storage area network, most of which involve lengthy procurement processes, quality assurance, and value for money audit before the award of contracts. Honorable Chair and members, in the implementation of this mandate, the Commission normally faces a number of challenges that include late enactments or amendments of enabling laws, and inadequate or untimely funding, use of equipment from other ministries, departments, and agencies that were mainly old or obsolete, malfunctioning, and or incompatible with the work of the Commission. Honorable Chair and members, the Commission, in response to the concerns from stakeholders about the high cost of elections, made efforts to review and adjust the budget downwards. It should be noted that the general election cycle cost increment is attributed to a number of factors, including increase in voter population, number of polling stations, number of administrative units, general cost of living, integration of ICT in elections, and incorporation of special interest groups elections. The budget for general elections has been on the rise. For instance, in 2010-2011 general elections, the budget was 299 billion.534. In 2015-16, the budget was 476.58 billion. In 2020-21, the budget was 765.7 billion. Now, for 2025-26 general elections, the budget is 838.709 billion. Honorable Chair and members, you may recall that during the presentation of the EC's budget framework paper on the 17th January 2025, a total of 140.801 billion shillings was allocated to fund the Commission activities in the financial year 2025-26.